In this self-nip bobbly baba dee doo doo. Welcome. This is called the Telekinetic Project, and it's in many parts based off of a blog I recently published called, Project Telekinesis. And the only reason I named it that is just I'm trying to expedite this whole process. Everybody, if you don't know, my name is Hakeem Ali Bokus Alexander, and that's not going to matter as much as the information that I'm about to go over from Project Telekinesis, which is real test of telekinetic ability, and I'm putting it on video so that everybody can see the results. It's based on scientific studies that have been done before on how our thinking can affect physical systems. And in this case, the physical system we're going to work on affecting, or I am in these videos that I'm recording to show you the potential of telekinetic ability in Project Telekinesis, or as this podcast is called, the Telekinetic Project. I'm using random number generators. And these are basically digital coin tosses. At least you can set it that way in the random number generator that I'm using, which is, let me see here. It's called Random Number Generator Plus, which is created and published by Random Apps Inc. And when I say a digital coin toss, I mean that when you press or touch the screen on an icon that says generate, this app either produces a 1, a number 1, a numeral 1, or a numeral 0. But it's random according to the software. You know, we're not supposed to be able to predict whether it gives us a 1 or 0. But if you have telekinetic ability, then what you should be able to do is cause the random number generator to produce more 1s or more 0s, depending on what you determine ahead of the touching of the screen or the pressing of a button to produce a 1 or a 0. And that's what we're doing with the Telekinetic Project, or Project Telekinesis. And I've already recorded 6 videos so far. Very crude. I put them on one of my random YouTube channels called Haiku Science Academy. But I've assembled them all into one blog on UniquilibriuM.com under the title Project Telekinesis. And right now I'm going to explain to you exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to start again and just be a lot more clear about what's happening here. So again, in this experiment and in scientific experiments, what scientists do is they make predictions. Meaning they make a claim, they say that something is going to happen in the future. And when we conduct this experiment, we expect, based on our prediction, that the thing that we said is going to happen is going to happen. And so that's basically what I'm doing in these telekinetic projects, or Project Telekinesis, is I'm making a prediction. I'm saying something that, based on the evidence that I already have from observations that I've made, or anecdotal evidence as it's called, things that people see all the time happening over and over again. But based on things that I've seen before, I'm going to make a prediction. And so here's the predictions that I'm making for Project Telekinesis. What I'm saying is that through meditation on a specific outcome, either thinking about the number 1 or thinking about the number 0, or more accurately, I could say thinking about the numeral 1 or the numeral 0, because number and numerals are different. Numerals are the representation, as in writing. So when you see the number 1 written as like a straight line on a piece of paper and a 0 like this thing looks like a circle, those are numerals. The numbers are the actual quantities, which are a little bit more abstract. But anyway, but my prediction is that by focusing on the image, the numeral of either a number 1 or number 0, through a random coin toss or using a random number generator, I should be able, through my thoughts, to be able to make the random number generator give me more 1s if I'm thinking about 1 than 0s, or to give me more 0s if I'm thinking about 0s than 1s, right? So, and how I initially decide, how I first decide whether I'm going to get more 1s or more 0s is depending upon a coin toss that I do at first. So again, the prediction is that my mind can cause a computerized system to give me more 1s or more 0s depending on what I decide I want to see ahead of time. And that's what I've started to do so far with Project Telekinesis, or the Telekinetic Project. And then there's going to be a second part to this Telekinetic Project, and that is to then move up to moving physical objects. And just because I'm arbitrarily, or just, I don't so far have another way to think any better about this, I believe that using light objects, or objects that have little friction to stop them from moving, that's the next step in the project. And so just imagine this, if you will. And I'm going to attempt to, in the future, in some blogs, to get this to be visualized. And I'm going to take some photographs of this and maybe even do some videos. But just imagine this. Imagine just a regular piece of paper that you could write on. Imagine a rectangle, but the long way is going from left to right. And on one side of the paper, you have written or printed number 1. And on the other side, you have printed, I want to use more accurately the terms numeral. So imagine on one side you have the numeral 1, and on another side you have the numeral 0. And just for the sake of how this experiment is actually going to proceed, let's imagine the 0 being on our left side and the 1 being on our right side. And then directly in the middle, in between, in this very center and middle of this piece of paper, or this design that we have, this rectangle, is a small ball. Maybe a plastic ball, a metal ball. I don't know what material I'm going to use. It could be marble, whatever. It could even be a marble, a glass marble. But it's set directly in the center, right between the 1 and the 0. And then what we're going to attempt to do with our thoughts is we're going to think more about more 1s or more 0s, and we're going to see if we can move that marble physically to move towards the 1 on the right or the 0 on the left. But that's the next stage. That's after we figure out how strong our telekinetic abilities are in phase 1 of the experiment, which is to see if we can even steer the random number generator to give us more 1s or more 0s. And so far, I'm up to 6 experiments, or 6 trials. And I think, from what I can recall, that so far we've been successful. But there's only 6 trials. I'm going for 15 trials. And out of the 6 trials, we've had more trials that have shown to deliver the result that we want. So that means more trials have shown that so far, and this is very weak, it's very early on, but more trials say that I can steer the random number generator to give me more of what I'm pushing it towards. And I'm using also the term steer very specifically because eventually I'm going to be using the same process to influence the random number generator to go more to the left, which is a 0, or to the right, which is a 1. And that's steering, right? Like turning a steering wheel. If you turn the steering wheel towards the left, your vehicle will go to the left. If you steer it towards the right, it will go to the right. And so that's what we're doing. And the same thing with the ball or the marble in between a piece of paper or a design of a rectangle that has a 0 on the left or a circle on the left and a line on the right or a 1 on the right. We're going to see if we can push it, influence it, steer it, move it without any visible physical means to the right 1 or to the left 0. And that's it. But that's phase 2, and I'm not even there yet. And so I encourage you to look at the videos. They're on UniquilibriuM.com. In this podcast, I'm going to put the link to the blog that I put to those videos so far so you can look at it and you can see how retarded I am and how stupid I am and how fumbly I am going through this whole process. But also you're going to see how brilliant it is and how genius it is, because it doesn't come from me. It comes from other people before me who've determined that these kind of things can happen. And all I'm doing is just giving you real life examples on videos and just showing you what may or may not be happening. I mean, I have no idea. I don't know if Google is listening to me or Android is listening to me and they're screwing with my mind and making me think that I'm actually influencing these random number generators, right? That's a possibility. That's a conspiracy theorist possibility. But in just really basic scientific terms, that's about to cross the boundaries between the physical and the metaphysical worlds, between the material and the idealistic. I'm just working from the fact that, or from the idea that this just may be a way to be able to test whether or not our minds, which so far to the reductive materialistic paradigm seem to be invisible, our mind seems to be invisible, but whereas the inductive idealistic paradigm doesn't need to be visible, it just needs to be known in the form of a concept. And just this seems to be the bridge, because we have the observable, physical, digital, electronic system of a random number generator as an app, and then the invisible mind influencing it. So is this what's happening or not? We'll see, right? So check out the link to that. This is Project Telekinesis is what the blog is called that I'm going to link to. And this podcast is called the Telekinetic Project. And I think that I've explained the idea clearly enough to so you can understand what's going on, but I'm going to recap right now. So phase 1 of this experiment is what's happening is I'm doing 15 trials that contain 15 tests in each trial. And the object is to predict in each trial whether I'm going to be able to use my mind to influence a random number generator to either give me more 1s or more 0s. And then once I have satisfactorily determined that my telekinetic abilities are sufficient enough, then I will proceed to phase 2, which is then attempting to move a physical object either towards a 0, which is going to be on my left side perspective, or to the right, which is from my right, towards a 1, which is on my right side perspective. Just using my thoughts only without physically touching the system, which would be considered telekinesis. And that's it. But right now, let's look at phase 1 of this. And after phase 1, I'm going to see if I have to just work on it being a better meditator or not. Because the question is not this. So let's just focus on this right now before I sign off. The question is not for me whether or not telekinesis or psychokinesis is a real phenomenon. I most certainly know that it is. That's not the question that I'm proceeding here, because there's way too much of that in the world right now. There's way too much of this whole debate about whether ghosts are real or not, or demons are real or not, or aliens are real or not, or paranormal is real or not, or supernatural. That's not I'm done with that. I've already decided, and if you're going to continue with following this, you should already just decide that telekinesis is a real phenomenon. What we're doing now is we're determining who can do it and to what intensity or what level, and then what can be done with that, and we're testing it. And from the test, we're going to strengthen it. And then once we strengthen it to a sufficient level, then we're going to start testing it more on bigger, heavier, more significant physical systems. All I'm doing right now is just trying to figure out how to actually make it stronger, right? To become like a superhero or a supervillain in this physical world. I'm more leaning towards the fact that I'm probably a supervillain, and because I'm, of course, MC narcissist, I'm obsessed with power and control. And so I'm developing this ability so that I can do whatever the hell I want with it. That's it, right? We're done. So, recap. We're just trying to prove on video whether telekinesis exists. No, we're showing on video that it does. And then even if my test fails to show that I can steer something towards more ones or zeros at first, to me that does not mean that telekinetic ability does not exist. It means that I simply have to strengthen my own telekinetic ability and continue to do experiments that show that my increased ability and strength in doing so is having effects on these physical digital systems as random number generators, which so far of what I've been doing has shown that that's what I need to be doing, because I've been using more accuracy producing protocols, like writing the numerals on paper, like writing 0 and 1 on paper along with flipping a coin. And it's been changing from what I feel intuitively. And that's what metaphysics is about, right? It's not just the physical world. It's not a reductive materialistic paradigm. It's an inductive idealistic paradigm. Meaning instead of starting with atoms and subatomic particles and things, it starts with thought and unextended concepts like mathematics in something that we can't touch, feel, or sense in a way that reductive materialistic science wants us to do. Anyway, that's it. I've gone on too long ranting so far. Let's see here. What do I have? I'm just going to play a little clip from Thor Ragnarok, because, you guys have no idea what's possible. So that's what we're going to talk about, right? We're going to talk about what's possible.
It's not possible.
Darling, you have no idea what's possible.
Yeah, most people have no idea what's possible. I should have played that much earlier in this podcast, but I forgot because I was ranting, but that's okay. And I have a bunch of other stuff that I wanted to play, and I'm not going to, but I'm going to end this now. And like I said, I'm going to refer you to the podcast I published on UniquilibriuM.com, which is called, let me click on it once again, it's called Project Telekinesis. And of course, this podcast is called the Telekinetic Project. And in Project Telekinesis, the blog I'm referring to, you're going to see 6 videos that I've already recorded so far having to do with this experiments that I'm doing. And right now I'm going to do at least anywhere between 3 and 6 more of those and put those in a blog later. Anyway, I'm Hakeem Ali Bokus Alexander, and I'm signing off from... I don't know what podcast I'm going to upload this to. Oh, yeah, this is going to be on the UniquilibriuM podcast to go on UniquilibriuM.com. So here we go. Thanks for listening. I know you've learned a lot. I always do, listening to myself, which is weird, right? That's so weird. I learned so much from listening to my own self rant. Here is a track from myself and Donald Dias called Frequency Squeal. You may or may not understand it, but it's kind of cool. Until next time, everybody, stay well.